Record to this computer. Okay, welcome. We're getting started with our Empathy Cafe, and we've been doing this Empathy Cafe on different topics. We've been looking at what is a culture of empathy, or the values of a culture of empathy. And this is the first one where we're looking at how might we build a culture of empathy in our families. So that's the topic. And it's a topic that a lot of people have mentioned in different empathy circles. They say, oh, how do I bring an empathy circle into my family? Because it can be very challenging. And so we're going to be exploring that for a while. And I hope to actually create, we have this empathy circle facilitator training. Oh, very more people. So we have this empathy circle facilitator training, and welcome. Just giving a little introduction here about our topic. So we have this training, and I hope that from this series on how do we build a culture of empathy in our families, that we can develop maybe a training out of that. So that's why we're also recording this if you're popping in right now. I hope we have at least one more person join us so that we can have 4 to a circle. Okay. Guess I should have started a few minutes late since everybody's popping in a couple minutes late. But yeah, so the topic is how might we build a culture of empathy in our families? And so maybe we can just start with introductions, your name, where you're located, and if that topic is of interest to you, and maybe just a short comment about why. So I'll start. I'm Edwin Rutch in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I think this empathy in the family is probably one of the most important topics, because we're especially now in COVID and, around our families all the time. So I think this is a really, important topic. So Richard, do you want to do an intro?
Yeah, sure. I'm Richard. I'm originally from the Netherlands, nowadays living in Germany, at the moment in the south of Germany. I'm living since like a month in something that we call an NVC house. So it's a house that we dedicate to living NVC and empathy, which has some interesting struggles and also especially kind of how to stay with our intention and not to lose it in daily stuff that comes. For me, culture would be something as kind of framework or something that's there that kind of supports us to remind us like we were here to connect with each other. Something like that.
Okay, yeah, thanks. So Victoria,
Mhm.
just a
Yeah.
quick intro.
Hi, everyone. I live in Mexico. Well, I'm from Mexico. I'm Mexican. And I think that this culture of empathy in our families is so important because it's where everything starts. If we can teach our children since they are really young how to express their feelings, how to be in a nice environment to be heard, that will be great.
Great, thanks. Dean?
Hi, I'm Dean. I'm from Southwest England, down in Plymouth. I have actually been practicing empathic circles within my family unit because my daughter wasn't feeling heard. So we empowered her by actually doing the circle process. And since we've been doing that, she's feel a lot more invested in the family, a lot happier, and there's a better buzz going around. So
good. We like good buzzes. So, James?
I pass.
Okay. Heather?
Hi, I'm in Calgary. I'm Heather. I'm in Calgary. I'm interested in this topic and I'm having computer issues, so I hope I can stay.
Hopefully that can get worked out. Anne?
Yeah.
I'm Anne. I'm in Minehead, also in the southwest of England. Hi, Dean. And I've come to this one because I just think it's got a huge potential, and I'd love to have it as an effective tool in my family. I've tried a bit, so interested to be here and learn and figure out more.
Okay, so thank you. Is everyone familiar with the empathy circle process? I mean, I know most people have done it before. Heather, have you done it? So I'm just wondering how much of an explanation. So we can kind of bypass the explanation then. But it sounds like you're kind of struggling with the computer still. So hopefully you can get that worked out. Okay, so it looks like we could do, this is kind of a hard, it's like 7 people. Do we do 2 groups or 1? So I guess maybe 2. Anne, could you facilitate 1? It'll be just with 3 people and maybe somebody else will join. It's kind of at that, yeah, I'm struggling. Okay, how about we do this? We'll start with all 7 of us. And then if it seems like people want more space, to talk, we can break up into a second room. That's an idea. So, okay, well, let's start with that then. So the topic is, how do might we bring a culture of empathy into our families or anything that is alive for you too, if you have something else. So whoever would like to get started, and somebody keep time. James, you're always good at timekeeping.
I'm happy to keep time.
Cool.
5 minutes shares?
5 minutes, yeah.
Okay.
So whoever would like to start, take it away and select the person you want to speak to. Okay, Dean, you're muted.
Seeing as I'm the one that's already been practicing it in my family, I'll give a little backstory. I'll go with Richard. Will you be my active listener, please? So yeah, my daughter was having struggles with emotional problems, issues in the family, and she felt that we weren't noticing her. She felt that we were too busy and she wasn't a valued member of our family. So I sat down and discussed with her if she'd like to have a talk with reflective listening, and she was quite open to that concept, and we started there.
Come on, dish it up.
Yeah, it gives me some time to reflect. So what I hear is that your daughter had some emotional issues and that you offered her a reflecting and that she was interested in that.
Yes, and the fact that the reflective process was used gave her a sense that she was being fully heard. And then once she'd got into the idea of us two doing this process with each other, she then roped in the mother. And once the mother was involved, we then, as soon as we have an issue, we now sit down and do a circle. And we take it in turns, we reflect with each other, and we carry on until we feel that we're fully heard.
So you went on with your daughter till she felt fully heard, and that you also, at some point, your partner, your wife, was involved in that. And nowadays, when there is an issue or something comes up, you sit together and you have this empathy circle.
And since, sorry, yes, Richard.
And I do sense some joy in when you say that, both on your face and in your voice. I hear the sense of joy.
It's the pride in the fact that my daughter now feels valued and part of our family again. And the fact that she now is the one that calls the circles. She now is the one that starts off with the reflecting. So she's very much in the driving seat. And as a teenager, she's nearly 18 now, it's really important that she learns the process of actually having authority over everything rather than being a child. And now she's growing from that child into an adult. It's a very turbulent time, and this process seems to have actually been a bridge that allows her to feel valid and heard. Whereas I seem to remember being a teenager and being thoroughly ignored.
Yeah, what I hear is some brightness that you as a father give her a tool that kind of allows her to take the initiative, the authoritative. Yeah, and that there is this thing that you also see it as a valuable tool for life, and that I see some thankfulness and some pride that it was passed on, and that you see that as a valuable tool for her life.
It's the sense of ownership of actually being fully heard. This being fully heard and learning to hear properly rather than combatively, in an empathic way. The fact that she's adopted this skill set gives me great hope for her future. Because if she can do this with her friends, even with her adversaries, then actually she will be able to feel that she actually is fully present in the moment rather than just being a transient, phone-loving, tick box wanting teenager that most people are. The Instagram generation is a generation I feel is lost because they seem to have lost empathy. Everything is instantaneous and everything is yes or no, swipe left or swipe right, rather than this middle ground of actually hearing someone and being with someone and giving them space to put their part of the conversation.
Yeah, what I hear is you value this ownership of being fully heard, that people can take ownership, and especially your daughter, that she can take ownership there. And especially in the culture that we have, kind of, you called it the Instagram culture, or you mentioned Instagram, that it's also taking the time to listen and to take this responsibility for of this ownership for being fully heard.
Thank you, Richard. I feel fully heard.
Yeah, thank you. Heather, would you like to reflect me?
Sure.
Yeah, when Dean told his story, kind of, I felt touched. Also sensing that it's nice to pass on to children. I also had some experience with children which were not so successful as he. These were not my own children, but children from my ex-partner. There was a lot of resistance there. I stop here to pause here.
Okay. Yeah. So you're feeling a lot of goodness coming out of the conversation you just had with Dean. However, moving into a story of your own, it wasn't as positive when you worked with children, especially your own with your ex-partner.
And also when I'm here, I'm now in a house where we want to basically live empathy. I find it interesting that there is sometimes this resistance. I think it's also the resistance of making any change, that anything that's kind of suggested, that's already seen as some threat for whatever or something. And it's also in the house here, kind of, I said like, hey, how would it be if we sit together as a circle? You know, we can just share without anything like reflecting. We can just share something that's alive in us. And that there is this, I don't know, some kind of why should we do that? And yeah, there is some mourning in me that it's what's for me so obvious and so valuable that it's that other people have a complete different view on that.
Yeah, so I hear you're feeling a lot of grief and separateness from your family in the house you're in right now, because that's connected to the resistance to having listening circles or even talk circles, and you're feeling inadequate, maybe, possibly, you didn't say inadequate, but inadequate to get them to buy in, and their fear is blocking that, and you want to break down that fear wall. And I'm interpreting rather than reflecting, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. So it's not so much that I feel adequate, it's more that I'm, because this is kind of a family that I choose to be, it's a living situation where we choose to be together, that I'm to some point kind of now checking, like, is this the environment that I want to be in? And, is this me who is now going to change everything so that the other people are willing to listen? Or is it just that there is a part in me that just needs to, that other people have other listening needs or have other wishes around connection? And there is this thing like, hey, will I go in the path of trying to share and inspire and give examples, and or is there the other way where I would say, like, okay, that's fine, you do your thing, I would like to do my thing, and I see that this might not be the place where my wishes and my talents are fitting in place. So yeah, there's this choice where I feel like, or this trying to figure out, like, okay, yeah, where do I go?
So I'm hearing that in your personal situation, this is a kind of a choice family, i.e. a met family, a constructed family circle, and you feel that you may have to make a choice and choose to flex yourself away from listening circles and other things that you would like to try, and you're in the midst of not being able to make a choice in that direction, because these choices are going to be bigger than listening circles or no listening circles.
Oh, nice, a turtle. Yeah. Yeah.
If I wasn't clear, that means time.
Yeah, it's kind of also slowing down, and it was a turtle, right? Yeah. Yeah. So thank you, Heather. I feel fully heard. Yep.
Oh, thank you. Oh, so now I have to choose someone.
Yep.
Ah, that's how the game goes. All right. Yeah. So, okay. Well, I'll just bring Victoria in.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you for being present, Victoria. This is kind of a random. It was just a random link opening on the Facebook. I did one listening circle really dedicated in the park this summer, and we were just afraid to call anymore with XR. So it's a bit of a challenge for me to be present here and focus on this.
Okay, Heather, so I can listen that you kind of were part of a circle like this before, right? And then today you were opening this link like randomly, and I can listen that it is a bit difficult for you. It's like a challenge, right? To be present at this moment right here, right now.
Yeah, okay, so thank you. So I'm in Canada. I'm involved in a lot of the Indigenous reconciliation work, and a lot of the sort of the anti-racist work in Calgary, but it's a real challenge because in Canada, for instance, a little bit, but especially in Calgary, there's quite a denial of the systemic level of the situation, the discrimination, the racism, the systemic lack of opportunity.
Okay, so I can listen that in Canada, you are involved in some Indigenous work, and well, especially in Calgary, you are in the anti-racism work, and you are telling that it's a challenge, right? Especially there in Calgary, because there's still a denial about the discrimination, about this racism. Is it like that?
Yes, yes. Thank you very much. It's very much like that. So this is a really good opportunity for me because choosing my words is where my struggle is going to be moving forward. Having read White Lives, White Fragility, and other books that are pointing out how even how they support, how the allies need to, how allies, that is the word, need to concern themselves as to what they're taking on and what they're presenting, and are they speaking for themselves? Are they speaking for others? And it's so mind-boggling to try and get my head around all of the things to speak correctly in quotations, but from the heart in reality, but guarded in, in respect.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I can listen that this seems a good opportunity for you for choosing like the right words, right? You were reading a couple of books and they were talking about how to support all these issues, and if they are speaking for themselves, I can listen that from what point they're speaking, right? Or do they mean when they speak? And you're trying to find out how to speak to, how to choose the right words, how to talk maybe with the right words, but also from the heart. Is it like that?
Yes, very much like that. So to speak from the heart would be to speak passionately, but to speak as an ally, we have to have the ally umbrella and speak our own truth and in support of what can go very, very slowly. And so all of this is an exercise. This whole thing is an exercise in slowing down, being conscious, and then I think I was out in the real world too much this week because mashing up with the real world is not slow and conscious. So.
Okay, so you are mentioning that to speak from the heart is like passionately, right? But also you're trying to figure out how to speak your own truth. Is that what I understood? And this is a whole thing, right? It's a whole learning, it's a whole exercise for being conscious, for maybe in the time of listening. I can understand that. But then you say that it doesn't match with the world right now, because the world right now is not about being conscious or being present. Maybe it's about going fast. Is it like that?
Yeah, that's how it is. And so I'm in a.
So that's time. I'll hold this up when it's time.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I feel so listened to.
Thank you, Heather. Okay, so then I can choose someone, maybe James. Could you listen?
Yes, listening.
Okay. Well, I even wrote down my answers. Otherwise, I would just talk and talk. Okay. I was writing yesterday about how can we do this in our families, and I think that the most important is to start maybe allowing everyone in the family to share and express their emotions freely. um, to express when they're angry, when they're sad, when they're happy, because I remember how it was when I was a child. And there was always this tension, this stressful environment that we could never feel fully free to express what we felt. I'll stop there.
Yeah, so you wrote down your answers in order to
Yes.
focus on what it is that you'd like to say. And the family for you is, well, you'd like to see if it's possible to speak honestly about our feelings in the family. And you had a different experience in your family.
Yes, yes, exactly. I had a different experience when I was a child. Well, right now it has changed because we have a couple of years, we could say, practicing these circles in the family, and the environment is totally different. At the beginning, it was so difficult, so weird, as we were never allowed to express what we felt. One day my mom said, "Hey, come on," because my mom took a facilitator training and then she started inviting us. I remember this feeling of, I'm gonna die. I don't know how to say it. I'm gonna explode. I cannot say this. I cannot express my feelings. It was so hard for me with a whole life of not being heard. But little by little we got used to it. I'll stop there.
Yeah, so you've been doing this with your family for some time now, a year or some more, and it was difficult. It's been difficult, but it's been helpful.
Yes,
Your,
exactly.
your mother is participating, I think you said, with you, and finding the words is difficult.
Yes, before it was difficult because as we were never heard when she first invited us to join a circle, it was so weird. But now, and now that we've been doing this for a while, it's even easier. And sometimes one of the members of a family call a circle like, "Hey, can we have a circle?" And this means that it starts to work. I think it's so good to have the circles in our family. At the beginning, it's tough, but I think that if we continue insisting and practicing, we can go on, I think.
So at first, when your mother invited you to circles, it felt strange, um, but you've been getting better at it through practice, and it's become more familiar,
Hmm.
and you feel good about the direction it's going.
Yes, I think that sometimes it's very difficult to turn off our egos. We might ask one member of our family, "Can you tell me one time when you feel hurt because of something I did?" And the first thing we do when they start talking is like, "No, it was not like that. It was not my intention. That wasn't like that." But I think we need some time to be conscious and to digest this new turn off ego thing.
Mhm. So when people engage in the circle, they often, it's difficult for them to turn off their ego. They begin to defend themselves and bring in counter arguments.
Yes, exactly. Just like that, because it happened to me many times. And I think that it's okay because we need some time. We shouldn't maybe be angry with ourselves, saying, "No, again, you didn't stay quiet," or "Again, you didn't turn off your ego. I think we can be patient with ourselves and give time to start listening without, I don't know, without saying it was not like that, without justifying ourselves.
So you think it is possible to engage without those defenses, without the defending ourselves and arguing, and just bringing ourselves to connect. You think it's possible to do that with some work and practice?
Yes, I think so. And I think that's all for the first answer. Otherwise, the next answer, I wouldn't know what to say.
Okay. Anne, would you listen to me?
Yes, of course.
Oh, I was saying
Oh,
Anne
Anne.
Anne
Yeah.
Jordan.
Hi. Yes, James. My pleasure.
Thanks. I came to the call today expecting to feel frustrated about whatever I found here, not knowing what I'd find here, reminding myself that there's a good chance that there will be a surprise, and I will my frustration will peak, will get very high. And I'm glad I did that. It helps me to navigate spaces. And I do feel very frustrated here. I hope nobody takes that personally. I feel frustrated most of the places I go.
When you came to the group, I hear that you were kind of expecting to be frustrated, but you came reminding yourself that maybe there was a chance that you'd be surprised, and that isn't how it would be.
Oh, not that I would be surprised by not being frustrated, but that I would encounter a surprise that would frustrate me greatly.
Okay, thank you. So when you came, you thought there was a chance that you might come across something that would frustrate you a lot. And I hear a sense that you're quite pleased, and you're also wanting to tell the group that it's not about the people here, that often where you go, you experience feeling frustrated.
Yeah. Yeah. I notice, I mean, as people speak, I don't like to use the word ego, but I do think it is a defense that when people speak, I have all kinds of ideas like, that's wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And it is quite frustrating to hold that constant bubbling up of resistance to what people are saying.
When you're sitting in the circle, that you quite often find yourself thinking that what people are saying is wrong, that you're disagreeing, it's wrong and it's wrong. And actually that's quite difficult for you to hold that level of frustration, to try to contain that and be present despite that higher level of frustration that causes for you.
Yes, it's difficult, but I also see the value in it. I see the value in not feeling compelled to tell someone that they're wrong, even if I do believe that they're wrong, that it's like having psychological freedom to ask myself, is that really what I want to do? Like, is it really what I want to do, that I want to tell this person right now that they're wrong? Or is what I want to do what is more important to me? Telling them that they're wrong, or having the experience of psychological freedom? And I think when I think it through in that way, it's pretty obvious to me that I would rather have psychological freedom.
So what you're finding, that actually this gives you a form of psychological freedom, because although you're drawn and you'd like in many ways to tell people that they're wrong, but you're finding a value in not doing that, and by not doing it, you're experiencing this freedom of how
Yes.
you choose
Yes.
to be and
Yes.
respond.
And I'll connect it to family at the end by saying that's what I do when I talk to my family, and it's extremely difficult. It's probably the most difficult to talk to my family and maintain a sense of psychological freedom without going into those automatic defenses of saying to my family members, you are wrong, wrong, wrong. I know better than anyone how wrong you are. So it's a challenge, and I do see a lot of value in engaging in the family with this work for that reason, and I do that a lot, and that's my time.
So what I'm hearing you do is come to wanting to connect to the fact that we're meeting to explore about families, and for you, in fact, having this feeling that you've been talking about during this round of needing to suppress your need and desire to tell people that they're wrong, and experience the psychological freedom that you get from that. This is actually probably even more challenging in your family situation. So you see a value of doing this here, and you're experiencing value from that.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, James. Edwin, would you be keen to listen to me? Please don't feel free to stretch and wriggle.
I'm listening.
Great, thank you. I really had to I have this in my calendar, and then only in the last couple of days I noticed that it was about family, and I was drawn to that. But I had something else on as well that I was very strongly drawn to do this evening, a Trust the People project, and especially as a friend of mine is running it, and I would really like to support her. So I was kind of really torn, which should I do? But I'm here, and it's an honouring of my commitment and desire to, this is the core, I think, of Empathy Circle work, is to bring it close to home to our families. And yeah, I'll pause.
Okay, so you're sort of struggling between two different events. There was this one and another one, but you really see that you're really drawn to this because you see that at the core of the empathy work is kind of working around the family. So that kind of swayed you to take part in this.
Yeah, and actually, I am glad I'm here. I'm in the right place, and I'm glad too that we haven't split into two groups. I'm finding it interesting to hear the range of facets and all the stuff that us seven minds and experiences are bringing to this, and that is such, I feel like a privilege and a gift to be able to sit with you and have this. And I'm so grateful to Empathy Circles and your work, Edwin, that that's now possible to do this.
Yes, I'm hearing you're really glad that you came, sort of feeling a celebration that you did come, and then also that we're in one group. So you're hearing the richness from everyone and really sort of appreciating that versus being in two smaller groups.
Yeah, I've loved hearing Dean with his daughter, and I'd kind of like treasure that, and love if I can support that. That's just so precious, and while she's so young. And to hear Richard talking about consciously putting himself in a situation where he's living with others to achieve this kind of empathic community. And the work of Heather, I'd like, to find myself ways to be more able to communicate really clearly and in a way that's safe for people to hear, but still be able to express myself. And Victoria's experience with her family. Sorry, Edwin, I'm sure you can cope. And Victoria's experience with her family over a couple of years, with her mum coming and initiating it after doing some sort of facilitation training, and hearing of the reluctance and the change. And I'd just love to know more and hear more, to learn from your collective experience to take to what I do.
Yes, I'm hearing a real appreciation for what everyone is bringing to the circle, and then sort of building on that. So a real appreciation for Dean and his daughter. It's almost a celebration of that, and just going through everyone and their kind of where they are, and kind of maybe celebrating, learning from them. Oh, and that was the time to see the...
I'm just going to add in the last bit, but also James talking about the psychological freedom of, and acknowledging the choice of to say what one's pulled to say, but to choose not to, and developing that capacity to do that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so bringing in James too, with that quality of the freedom to listen and maybe not judge, or
The psychological freedom, the way he expressed it, it actually kind of resonate with that.
So you're really resonating with that psychological freedom that James is talking about.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, Dean. Speak.
Edwin.
Yeah, I really appreciate, or really, this topic I think is very real for people, because we're all stuck, instead of it being sort of abstract out there, how do we sort of change the world? It's like the family is like right there that you're kind of dealing with on a daily basis, and you can't escape. So it takes it out of sort of the abstraction, makes it very real. Yeah.
So the realness of our present situation is almost like a wonderful chance to carry on with the empathy work in a family unit, especially as we're stuck together.
Yeah, so I'm thinking always like, well, how do we kind of, spread the empathy circle practice? And I think what we're doing here is sort of a real core topic that I'd really like to kind of expand on, because it keeps coming up in a lot of the different cafes that I do. People will mention the family, as a real topic, that they're really curious about and have real issues. So I really want to develop, but this is like the beginning of something I really want to develop into maybe like a ongoing, topic, and harvest all these insights, kind of like Anne was doing. Take each of the points, really kind of gather these insights and then build on them, and create maybe like some kind of a training module or a toolkit or something, out of this.
So I hear you expressing the fact that this is not just some sort of intellectual thought experiment. This is a very valid one because of what's going on at the moment, and how you'd like to take up all these different views from this melting pot and actually combine it into a new form of a teaching program, and then take it out to other people as a part of an empathy school.
And I just felt very motivated, very inspired by you and Victoria, you know, talking about the family empathy circles, you know, that you're doing. And it's just that there's sort of this feeling, this positive feeling, right? It's like a contribution. It's like, and just kind of sensing into that, you know, feels really, really good.
So I hear you talking about the fact that you've listened to the positive experience from Victoria and myself of actually using the empathy circle process in a family, and about how it could be a very powerful thing.
And I've done empathy circles in my family, and to begin with, there was a lot of resistance. I heard, you know, Richard talk about resistance, and it's like, you know, the family dynamics have a certain power structure, a certain relationship, and bringing something new into it there's just like, we don't know. It's just like, we don't want to do this. It's like, there's just this resistance that sort of comes in. It's like, you know, you're changing the power dynamics here in this family, you know, and we're worried about it. Where is this going to take us, you know?
So the introduction of the empathy process can be somewhat tiring and frightening and intimidating, because it's a new way of the dynamics in the family into playing, and people don't necessarily want to have change in the family. They're quite used to doing things in certain ways.
And, you know, and I'm doing this, you know, pretty intensely, and I had struggles, you know, bringing it into my extended family, you know, parents and siblings and their spouses, etc. And it wasn't until I sort of mediated a conflict in the family, you know, and I tell this story a lot because it was one of those meaningful, pivotal, peak experiences. I mediated this conflict on the fly between two family members, and it ended with hugs all around, you know, and I actually have I wrote it up too. Maybe I'll post that, you know, the write-up of it. And it was after that the door kind of opened, like, oh, this kind of works. This is really helpful. This contributed, you know, we'll do more. So that was sort of the openings. So it's like how to get past that resistance and have ways of easing it into the family. And I'm just kind of celebrating that you were able to do that. Seems like fairly easy, Dean, with your daughter.
I'm hearing that your larger family unit was very reluctant to actually use this new tool, and you're somewhat of an expert in this, so you were sort of like trying to find a way for them to get to use it, and then because of the way you are, you actually used it on the fly one day, because you have this empathic muscle that's just always working. So therefore there was this conflict going on. You jumped into the middle of the conflict, and you ended up resolving the conflict with this empathic listening process. And so there was hugs all around. And then suddenly people could actually see that this actual frighteningly scary new tool is actually quite powerful and can actually achieve quite a lot.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's not it's like I had that success. We did a bunch of empathy circles, but now there's family members who aren't talking to each other. So it's like it's an ongoing. It takes a lot of support to kind of shift the family dynamics. Yeah, so there's a lot of challenges. I hope this, you know, in this group we can, you know, kind of help support each other and work some of those out. Yeah.
So after initial success, I hear that the family fell back into its old ways and fell out of listening to each other and settled back into what it was comfortable with beforehand. So you're looking to hopefully gain insights from this that will allow you to then reinvigorate the process.
Yep, feel fully heard. Thanks.
Victoria, will you be my active listener, please?
I'm here.
I have a very small family. So there's only 3 of us. There's not many other people in the family, so it's very easy to get the circle process working. I too am very interested to hear how it can be applied in a larger dynamic group, especially one so entrenched in the power structure. I mean, when people have power, they don't like to renege that power, do they? So that's going to be quite an interesting thing to see how it plays out in bigger family units.
Okay. So you have a really small family, only 3 of you, right? And it's easy to get involved, to make the circles. And you are wondering how would it be to have the circles in a larger family? Is it like that?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because I've tried to get it involved in my my family of choice, my activists that I'm involved with, and they don't like the concept of having to sit there in silence. They're all quite strong people and quite used to jumping up and speaking their mind, and I don't think they like the concept of having to be quiet for a long period of time before they can actually speak.
Okay, so you tried this with that. Sorry, what was the word?
My chosen family, in other words, the activists I work with.
Okay, okay. And you tried to do this to get involved into a circle, but it was difficult, right? Because they don't like to sit in silence at all. They like giving opinions and giving their words and everything. Is it like that?
Yeah, they're all very strong people, hence why they're able to be at the sharp end of change. So it's, if we can get that embedded in that powerful dynamic structure, then we know we're definitely headed for a brighter future, I feel.
Mm-hmm. So you think it will be so beneficial to get into dynamic, right? To get into this dynamic to make it work. Is it like that?
Yeah, because if we actually listen, we can learn. Whereas if we speak, we're showing off. So yeah, I've heard it mentioned in the group earlier many times tonight about suppressing the ego, which is a hard thing to do because the ego likes to shout out a lot. It likes to be seen, like, no, look at me, look at me. Whereas with the empathy part of our character, we get the ego, we put it in a box and go, be quiet. You're going to be quiet now. You're going to have your turn. Let you out the box, then we'll put you back in the box again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're mentioning that if we listen, we can actually learn. And how to suppress the ego, right? It's so difficult. You're mentioning like it's like, okay, this is the time to put the ego in a box. Stay there for a while, just for 5 minutes, 20 minutes. Please don't go out. It's a challenging thing as I listen, right?
Yeah. I quite like it now because I've been doing the circle process for about a year, I think. It's not long, but my empathic muscle of actually listening and hearing rather than just listening to what can I say. There's a different form of listening. You listen to understand rather than listen to compete.
Yes. So you actually really like the circles, right? It's like training your empathic muscle. It's like to listen just to understand, not to defeat or to judge or to do any other things, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to become a little bit more non-violent in my use of language, but sometimes I still slip up and use things like judge and defeat and conquer, and it's very bad methodology to actually speak in such confrontational and hostile ways, because it's just a system that we've been using for a long time and it doesn't seem to have worked very well. So I think we need to try this new system. We need to feminize the masculine, but also empower the feminine, so that we can be as equals rather than fighting for better or to get on top of the pile, because there should be no pile. We should share.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I can listen that you're trying to become a kind of try not to use a violent language, right? But you also mentioned that we have always had this system that we've been using a way for so long that now to change it is not that easy. Is it like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Did I miss
Thank you.
something?
I was just talking about the fact that we need to seek balance rather than dominance. Our culture is a very dominant seeking culture rather than seeking equilibrium.
Okay, so you would like a balance to be part of, maybe in the family, right? Like woman, man, not to be I'm the dominant and you are the one who obey, right?
Yeah, the global family. Oh, thank you. So I feel fully heard.
Okay. Thank you, Dean. Okay, it's my turn. Richard, would you listen?
Yes, I'm on it.
Okay. I was really touched by what was Dean saying about his teenager daughter. I was really touched because I can't imagine what would have happened with me and my dad if we had started this empathy circles earlier. I'll stop there.
So what I heard, you were really touched when Dean told about his teenage daughter. And if you imagine that your father would have done the same with you, kind of your life might be different.
Yes, I was listening like with the eyes, like I want to cry. I was like, wow, that's so wonderful. Nowadays, when we have a circle, for example, last time we had a circle, and then my mom said, today we're gonna mention a negative situation with one of the members of the family and a positive situation. So it came to my mind a situation with my dad. So when it was my turn, I asked my dad, Dad, could you listen to me, please, without interruptions? And he said, yes. He's not that good at that, but when my mom said it's a circle, it's a circle. So he listens. So I could share to my dad one day that I broke up with a boyfriend. It was a long time ago. I don't even have feelings for that boyfriend anymore. But I told him, Dad, there was one day I came home crying, sad. And I told you, Dad, I broke up with my boyfriend. I'm so sad. And the only thing you said, oh, life continues, life goes on. So that day I feel so hurt, not heard. So I feel that my feelings were not worthy, were not valid. And yeah, I'll stop there.
Yeah. So what I hear is you had a family gathering where you were also in the circling, and then you had the chance to tell your father something uninterrupted, also with the support from your mother, who made clear that this was how it's going to be. And then you shared with your father that there was this moment in the past where you were having this boyfriend, and things broke up and you came home, and he said, the only thing he said was, well, life goes on. And that was very hurtful for you. And also you didn't feel hurt in the feelings that you had then.
Yes, exactly. And I told him that, and I told him I don't know, I felt so sad, and maybe I wanted you to tell me, oh, I imagined you're so sad, or come here, or something. And then I told him, could you please repeat what I just said without justifying, without adding anything else? And he said, yes. And as he was repeating, like reflecting what I said, I don't know, but I felt so good. It was like, I don't know, I felt my body like so warm, and I felt like there was something lost within me that took the place where it belongs. Something like that. It's something so weird. I really don't know how to explain it. But I was listening to him, I was looking at him, and he was saying, oh, I imagine that you came to me, blah, blah, blah. So that was a really special experience for me. I have a few like that, but it was the recent one, and I think it's so powerful when we get to do these circles. Maybe in a daily basis, we are stressful, we are in a hurry. If somebody comes to you, they will say, "Oh yeah, whatever. Oh, that's that." That's why it's important to ask, "Would you listen to me without interruption?" And if they say yes, then that's the time, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, so what I heard when your father heard the story, there was first some, I can't remember the word that you said, justifications or so. He said, hey, can you please repeat what I was saying? And when he did that, it felt so good for you that what I remember, you said something like something fell back in its place or so, kind of. You didn't say it in so much word, but the picture that I had was that at some point something was lost and now it came back to its place or so. Something maybe like trust or connection.
Hmm.
Um, and that's for you kind of a, a really powerful experience where you also felt like, yeah, that I wish this for everybody to happen every day.
Hmm. Yes, just like that. It was a really special experience. Thank you, Richard. I felt fully heard.
Yeah. James, would you like to reflect me?
Yes.
Hmm. I noticed when the thing was about power talks, kind of I immediately recognized that kind of the situations where I have been in where I try to bring empathy in kind of also here where I am now. Like that's the thing, people feel threatened in their power that if everybody could just speak their emotions, there's something with kind of it's changing the power structure, and especially the people. I notice my pattern is I come into a new system without fully aware or fully acknowledging how the power structure is, and then this empathy circling process can it can mean some kind of change in power, and that's kind of what comes with resistance or so. That was a major insight what I had just a few minutes ago.
So your insight is about your pattern of coming in to a space without so much awareness about the power dynamics, and that if maybe your goal is that if people are speaking from their feelings about their feelings, it disrupts the power dynamic.
Yeah, or at least that people feel threatened in that I could that I could see kind of with my previous kind of the two daughters. They were feeling like, okay, there is this man coming in our family, and whatever whatever he's proposing, he's coming between us and our mother, so to say. And what I sense here, there is we are living in a house that's from a father of one of the people who is younger than me, like 20 years younger or so. And also seeing like, hey, if I bring in some new structure, it would mean some kind of power shift, maybe, and just this idea that's kind of, okay, now don't go there. That's kind of.
So with with the two daughters of your partner or ex-partner, they were defending against somebody coming in and changing the power dynamic, which was a relationship that they had with their own mother. And you see it kind of similar to your live-in house. It's owned by the parent of one of the younger people. And so by introducing the circle structure into that space, people are resistant and defensive about changing or even noticing the power dynamic.
I also notice kind of where I get the most energy, kind of I organize a festival every summer where kind of I'm the organizer, so kind of that's my power thing. And then I noticed then it really works, because people say like, oh, Richard, really great what you're doing, kind of. And I noticed kind of, yeah, there is this ease. And also when I think about things that go on there, I think like, oh yeah, that's really how I would like to live.
So you organize a festival every summer. and it's easier because you're in charge, and you get praise, you get people tell you that they really like it, and so that is like a clue as to how you'd like to live all the time. Every more spaces where you have more control and or feel good about being there.
Yeah, it's not so much about control, I think. It's more about trust somehow. That if I'm kind of organizing the thing, that kind of people, basically they see me as the organizer, and there is some trust, okay, what Richard is doing, that's why we came here, basically. And if I come in kind of external constellations, that there is this thing like, okay, you know, who is Richard? I also feel that a lot of people are kind of, you know, kind of a big man most of the time with the beard, you know, kind of there is some, okay, what's he doing here? You know, kind of he might take away things from us.
So not so much about control, but you like that from the beginning, when it's your event, then people start by trusting you because they know that you're doing it and they come for that reason. Whereas if you come into a different space, the dynamics are, you called it internal, the dynamics are different, and so then they're suspicious. Who are you and why? What are you bringing in? And you have a beard, so you must be trying to take something from us.
Yeah, you're big and a beard, so kind of, that must be dangerous. I really have this experience. Yeah.
It's time to.
It's time. Okay.
Yeah, it's time.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for listening.
Victoria, would you listen to me?
Here.
I really resonate with what Richard is saying. I organize a daily call that uses empathic listening called the Joining Game, and I'm the group leader. I take on the role of organizing it and being the last responsible person to do it. And so I just have this similar experience where it's a big relief to have that clarity around doing something and people having the connection, and I would call it trust, that the people who come know what my relationship is to the activity. And I see that for myself, it's a challenge to be then in a different space and want to give my input or work, take on some kind of authority in a space where there's a different working assumption about authority and who makes the decisions and who gives input and who doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you really resonate with what Richard was saying because you organize a kind of, well, you call it a joining game, right? And you had a similar experience. I can listen, like it's like the experience of people trusting you because you organize and you are kind of leading this joining game. Is it like that?
Yeah, thank you. Let me clarify for myself. People don't always trust me, even though they're there, but there is some kind of fundamental baseline of trust that I know they trust me enough to be there to even tell me that they don't trust me, which is different than people who don't trust me so much that they're not even there to tell me they don't trust me.
Okay, so you are just saying that they don't always trust you, yeah, right? Well, they trust you enough as to tell you, I don't trust you, right? But it's
Yes.
not people that don't trust you at all, that they wouldn't even tell you that.
Yeah, and as I say that, I mean, I know this, but I'm again connecting to how valuable. It's not a small thing. It's really valuable to have enough trust with people so that they can tell me, I don't like what you're doing, and I don't trust what you're doing, and I think it's wrong.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're just reflecting at how really valuable is to have enough trust, right? For people to tell you these things. I don't like what you're doing. I don't trust you. I don't like this, right?
Yeah, yeah. And for me, that's yeah, that for me is kind of the core of the work that I'm interested in, creating a space not just to enjoy the benefits of connection, which I love. I love good feelings, and I love connecting with people and a warm feeling. But it's, for me, that's not the most important part of the work. And I want to be really vigilant that I don't kind of fall in, get what I would call like addicted to comfort or addicted to the feeling good, and lose sight of my goal, which is to learn about myself and connect to reality.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you are mentioning that's kind of the core for you, because you would like not just to enjoy the benefits, like, oh, I feel good, and you don't want to lose from the perspective of your goal, right? You don't want to get addicted to just feel good, but I'm listening, like the goal of this is to connect, to know yourself, to connect with yourself. Is it right?
Yeah, thank you. And that's my time.
Okay. Thank you, James. Oh, it's my turn again, right? Okay. Um Anne, could you listen to me?
Yeah, Victoria.
Okay. Well, going back to the question of this empathy circle, the question was, how might we nurture a culture of empathy in our families and romantic relationships? Well, I think today we're just talking about families. And I was reading a book about empathy and how to nurture the empathy in the families. And they were saying that it is important to have some quality time with the members of our families. Not specifically a circle, but for example, have a time, I don't know, with your daughter or with your dad or with your sister, to accompany them to do something that they want to do. And you'll be just there, present with them. Because I think sometimes when we are with someone, we want to teach something, we want to correct, we want to say this way is better, what if we better do that, what I like. So this book was saying that it's so important to have this quality time to share with some of the members of your family when you just accompany them to do something they like doing. I'll stop there.
So you're noticing you want to go back to the question for this evening, which is how to nurture in our families a culture of empathy, but that was also in personal relationships too, but we're focusing on the family. And there's a book that you've read recently about empathy, and in there's something that stuck with you that you're interested in, and that is the importance, in order to build empathy, of having quality time with people and family members. And that is, instead of maybe pointing out what you think or sort of guiding them or suggesting what they do, is actually to accompany them in something that they want to do, they'd like to do, to enable them to have or do that experience and be alongside them.
Yes, I truly believe that this is a way of empathy because it's a special time that you are giving them. And in this special time, you are accepting them like exactly as they are, whatever they want to do. If they want to sit on the floor for 2 hours, if they want to watch a movie, if they want to go buy something, I think with this quality time, you are telling them what you want to do is important. What you feel like doing, it's good. It's okay. And at this moment, I don't want to change you. I don't want to instruct you. I don't want to tell you, why don't we better do this? This is boring. I don't like this. I think that the message you're sending is like, your world is valid and worthy for me too.
So you kind of thoroughly behind and believe this idea that if you're actually doing something that with someone who has chosen that's what they want to do, whatever it is, even if it's just sitting on the floor for 2 hours, maybe saying nothing, just to validate that and to give them the sense that you value what's important to them in their life and their world, that in itself is creating empathy.
Yes, I think so because reading this book, I went back to, I was thinking about myself. So I was like, wow, sometimes when I am with people, I am not my presence, I am my egos. And I could see that whenever I am with someone, I am instructing. I mean, why don't we better you do that? No, this is boring. Or I know better. This, that. Why? I really didn't notice I was doing that till I sat and read this book and how it's important to practice short times of presence. And maybe with the circles we start, and maybe later we can be present at any moment with the people we care about.
So I think that what you're suggesting is this is a way to start, is for building this empathy within families, is to start with this special time where you do whatever the person chooses to do and you do it alongside them, and that will build it without any of the helping them to do better or change what they're doing, and then move on to the listening.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right, Anne. Thank you. I feel fairly heard.
Thank you, Victoria. Richard, would you listen to me, please? Is that okay in terms of turns?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this idea of special time. I think that's really important. It's really a good way for working with children. But as Victoria's talked about it, of course, it's just as valid, or it could be just as valid with anybody, whatever age, any, and maybe starting doing that with family members, if you can get them to choose what they want to do, even. Oh dear. The thought then is they might not want you to spend that time with them. Richard, I'll pause.
What I hear is this dedicated quality time, that you see that as a valuable thing, and especially if children are involved.
And there was a bit about doing it with adult adults as well.
Mm-hmm. And adults as well.
Yeah, and there's something that you've missed, and about that it, yes, I could see that's a good idea, and I was kind of engaging with that, but then I thought they might not want to spend that time with me. But you didn't catch that bit, and it's quite important, I think, because yeah, can you feed that bit back, reflect that bit?
So what I hear is this question like, do they want to spend time with me?
Yeah. And I'm listening in the circle, just again, going back with what Dean was saying, I just see that it's a real investment in the future, like working with young people and in that way, or establishing those relationships with a teenage daughter will be really significant, I think, for your lives together in the future. So it seems really, really worthwhile. The other thing that I'm curious about and want to bring that in is the place of feelings and emotions that I think that in that area, this is where it kind of gets more tricky and possibly unsafe.
Mm-hmm. So what I hear is that the place of feelings and emotions, that's getting a more tricky situation. And that's also where it might get unsafe for people.
And cause a reluctance to engage or participate. I think quite often when we need to be heard and understood, and if we're genuinely going to be able to listen to people and hear them, it's got to include not just the words, but the understanding of what's underneath that, the feelings, the emotion.
Yeah, so what I hear is that it's not just the words, kind of reflecting back the words, but it's also about really understanding where they are and connecting with feelings and needs and making genuine connection on that level.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the proportion is, but so much of our communication is not about words. It's much more about other things. And there are lots more to be understood about each other than words.
And also in communication, there's lots more than words. Kind of, there is some percentages, which you don't know, but it's kind of, you're very clear that there is this thing that there is beyond the words. There is a deeper thing in understanding each other.
And I think that's what we need. We need a deeper connection. And we can do that in the empathy circles. But it's important that we're open and prepared to go deeper than the words, which are more superficial.
Mm-hmm. So what I hear is a strong wish to go deeper, to go beyond words, and also see that you see that as a valuable thing to going on this level, deeper connection, that it's a valuable aspect.
And I think we need to cultivate those understandings and capacity to hear and read people at a deeper level and be heard and speak or communicate from a deeper level.
Yeah, so what I hear is that it's really important for you, this deeper level, and also to cultivate and support that happening in families, that there is this beyond the words kind of cultivate and support this deeper understanding.
I just want to add, I really appreciate Victoria adding in a reminder of this special time, which I knew of when my children were younger, but now to bring that into my thinking and interactions with adults.
Yeah, I didn't fully understood that, but what I did hear is that there was something from the past and that you find it wordful to bring that in now.
Yeah, it was what Victoria said about special time and with children, but actually doing it with adults too. And I'm grateful to have that reminder of that process, that tool. Thank you.
Yeah, so what I hear is when Victoria told about the special time, that it was a reminder for me, kind of, that you've seen that it's special, that it's important with children, but it's also equally important with adults to have this special time.
Yeah. Thank you, Richard. I feel heard.
Yeah, Edwin, would you like to reflect me back?
Did you say me? I didn't quite.
Yeah, Edwin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Guy with
Listening.
yeah. Yeah, I find it interesting, like this place from feelings and needs. I also, what I find really interesting is also at the moment where I'm the place where I'm here is kind of, we are living with kind of 5 people fixed and 4 people coming in once in a while. And also seeing that everybody kind of seems to have a different understanding or a different value about what feelings or emotions are. Kind of, I'm in this group where it says like, oh, we can share it all day and it's so nice for connection. And when we share that, we come into deeper secrets of being human, etc., etc. And there's almost like this, there's also kind of a group says like, yeah, kind of it's helpful, you know, if there are conflicts, we can do something with it. But if there's no conflict, you know, there's no need to bother with feelings and emotions.
So in the group that you're that living situation, that people have different sort of an attitude towards feelings. For you, it's oh, let's just keep exploring feelings. It's enjoyable. You're creating connection. And for others, it's like feelings are just what you bring up to work through a conflict. And you're seeing these at least two different approaches to feelings.
Yeah, and also something that I see kind of a little bit also with my parents, like, you know, emotions are something for children, you know, kind of, and now we're all grown up, and you know, we are beyond that, so to say, kind of, and all those, they are not spoken out so much, those assumptions, what feelings and needs are, but kind of I can sense that there is really different value or different, yeah, there's a different purpose or so, and seeing feelings in a completely different frame or setting or something like that.
I'm hearing some curiosity about how feelings work and how people sort of approach feelings, and with your parents, feelings were something that are for kids to deal with, and so you're just kind of seeing some curiosity about how that works.
Yeah, and I also noticed myself, kind of, we are also talking here like, hey, but basically we had a discussion, what is community, and if that's clear what community is, what do we do together then, and how do we spend our time? And also seeing that there are, my guess is that some people are seeing it really as like, oh, it's really cool if other people are here, if I'm doing something, they might help me. You know, that's the sense of community.
Yeah, so another aspect is community. What does community mean? And you notice some people think, oh, community is I'm doing something, you come and help me out. That's a feeling of community. It sounds like you see a little humor in that, or too.
And I also noticed I came to my dearest wish, so to say, and I noticed at the moment my wish is really like, a community is a group of people who sit dedicated. And also kind of at the moment, my wish with Feelings and Emotions is to be together in a lockdown situation with like 5 to 10 people who basically spend the whole time in lockdown to really get to the essence of feelings and needs, and making a book about it. I also have the name for the book. That's kind of the big needs book, or in German it's like das große Bedürfnisbuch, with a subtitle now I also sense that. So kind of something like exploring deeply into feelings and needs, and especially needs, and somehow finding the essence of needs and somehow write it in a book that can be given to everybody. That if people say like, I lost connection with clarity, okay, look at page 30 and 32. People open the book, there is a photo, there is a poem, and that people say, oh yeah, now I remember, you know. And for me, kind of the community that I sense that was my wish, you know. This is what we can do here. We can just, you know, everything is locked down. A lot of us kind of lost their jobs in a way. This is something so cool that we can do, and that's completely, but it is not completely compatible with this people who say like, oh, you know, if there is no conflict, what's the why do we bother about emotions at all?
Yeah, so kind of your dream or wish would be is that now in lockdown with this group that you're with, you would just spend the whole time sort of exploring the feelings and needs and really wanting to get to the core of what these feelings and needs are, and then actually kind of document that and create a book that others could use as a sort of a reference to sort of guide them but in going deeper into this. And it sounds like you want maybe the core. What's the most core foundational needs and feelings that people have? And it sounds like you have a lot of joy too in just even thinking about that and doing that. And it's different than other people who just want to deal with feelings when they're in conflict, maybe resolving conflict.
And there's one essential thing that I want to, it's not just for reverence, but it's also for sparking, kind of in a way that if you lost connection through this book, it's not just a reverence, but also kind of a spark that you can find back this connection to. It's so back to the essence that in 2 pages you just have kind of, it's the golden book of humanity or so, you know?
Yeah, so you really want to create this golden book of humanity that if you get lost, and you know that you can go to this book and it'll give you a sense of feeling of connection again very quickly.
Yeah, I feel fully heard.
Okay.
Thanks, Edwin.
I'll speak to James.
Listening.
Yeah, the kind of coming to the, I like the idea of having, I talked about having like a day-long 8-hour empathy circle. So that notion of the deep dive. It's like, I'm there with Richard. I've been thinking about that and hope to do it at some point. You know, just what happens to us if we just do this for hours after hours after hours? So would there be a sort of a shift, something with just curiosity, what would happen?
You're back to the idea of the all-day empathy circle with Richard, and you wonder what would happen to you, to us, if we immersed ourselves in this process for a long time.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I want to get out of here. I'm stuck in this hellhole.
Yeah, you imagine that feeling of get me out of here may also come up, that it may be a lot.
Yeah, or it might be, hey, this is really cool. Something, you know, my neural networks are kind of shifting. You hear about people in conflict, like they have the, you know, the Israelis and Palestinians, they get locked up in Camp David for a week, you know, and you just keep going and going, and you get so tired that finally you just kind of agree to things, you know. So there could be something. It's just through exhaustion, you know, or even, you know, like a cult, they try to exhaust you, you know, low protein food and sort of exhaustion. You kind of make some kind of mental shift. So.
So Camp David and a cult, two examples of where exhaustion may lead to giving up our inhibitions about making agreements, or you said one more thing, but
yeah, it's some kind of a shift might happen, some kind of a mental shift, I could imagine maybe would happen.
Yeah, you think that maybe it would lead to some kind of shift in discovery.
Oh, and that's it. That reminds me of an empathy circle we had in my family. So the topic was, I can't remember what the topic was, but it went for like 3.5, 4 hours. And we were doing the empathic listening, and like into about after the third hour, we stopped doing reflective listening because the sort of the mindset had sort of clicked in. I could actually feel it shift. I could feel my body shift, you know, from sort of being, you know, maybe judgmental or sort of controlling to it just kind of melted away, that it was, we had it embodied, the listening, you know. So there was sort of this click that happened where we didn't even need to reflect because we all had trust in each other. We all trusted that we would listen to each other, and we had shifted into this deeper sense of connection. So it was nice feeling.
So you have an experience doing this with your family where at a certain point for an extended circle, the group gave up reflection because there was a shared sense that it was being embodied, understanding was being embodied, and it felt good to be there, to do that.
Yeah, and that's where this agreement and this structure helps, though, is that you go into that space and then something happens, somebody gets triggered, and it's like all hell's about to break loose, and then you say, "Up, let's go back to the structure." It's sort of like this is what we're doing here is sort of like a safety net in a sense. Like, okay, we go back to this, we pick up the pieces, have this structure, and then maybe move into more of that awareness at some point again.
So the agreement about the structure that we have by being here is like a safety net, but the ideal is to be able to operate without the safety net. And that's what your experience was like with the family empathy circle.
And then the question is, in a family, how do we come up with this agreement to begin with? Because there's a lot of resistance to having, what is the agreements? And, I'm thinking of, could we have like a family empathy constitution, right? And written into the family empathy constitution is the empathy circle, so that, the country's run on a constitution. If you want a democracy, you kind of have to have some kind of core agreement. And so, and I think I saw Dean say no, but I do think that there's something about having, this agreement. And so that's something I wanted to explore more too.
So you're interested in what makes it easier for the family to come together to create the agreement because of the resistances that people talk about. And one idea is something like a constitution, something written like a country's constitution that allows the group to come together for a common purpose.
Yeah, it's close enough. I feel heard.
Okay. Dean, would you listen to me?
Certainly, James.
All day empathy. I do empathy every day. I'm waiting for you and everyone and Edwin to come to one of my daily empathy calls. It's been 5 months. You haven't visited one. I believe you that you want to do all day. We do a text. We do a text version, and it's a text groups are 24 hours. We've tried different things where we only reflect, or it's just a free for all. The reflection, only reflecting, drives people crazy 24 hours a day. Having a free-for-all, people just attack each other and it gets out of hand. So for myself, I've tried to lead by example. I have tried to cordon off, schedule blocks of time where I'm coming in, and for that time, I'm going to make an effort to hear people, reflect them, be empathic. And I know that I have a limit. I can't do it 24 hours a day. So I either leave the space completely I take kind of an agreement with myself. If I'm there for 60 minutes, then I leave for 60 minutes. I don't do anything. And I also allow myself some time in that space to just be free. And so I have found it to be a very important learning experience to have these all day interactive experiences, but I know that I have limits, and I've been there. I know for these extended calls, I know at some point I just start screaming at people and just start, the inhibitions come down, and I don't think it's useful. I actually prefer to have that clarity and self-connection where I don't care if you're doing a 24-hour empathy call. I know for myself, I actually do have a limit at 90 minutes, and I'm going to remove myself for like 90 minutes if I've done 90 minutes of empathizing, because I'm human. And the Constitution, or a written agreement, for me is core. I have found that whenever I write down the agreements that I want to make or that I'm making with myself, it opens a space for people to disagree specifically with what agreements I'm making. And so it looks like there's more disagreement. People start fighting about the minutes and this, and every detail that gets written about gets fought over. But it's not that the written agreement is creating disagreement. The written agreement is reducing the noise. It's reducing the ambiguity about what we're doing. And so it creates a secure foundation to begin making real agreements, because you can't have real agreement if disagreement there's no secure foundation for disagreement. So it took a while to learn about this. I was amused, like, why? I'm writing it so clearly. Why is everybody disagreeing with everything I've written? This is ridiculous. And it's not ridiculous. For me, it's a sign of progress, of moving forward, that we are working to get on the same page about what we want together.
Okay, so there was a lot there, but I think I've got the gist of it. You're very eager. You like the fact that there's this dynamic flow. You have a time limit of 90 minutes. You've tried total reflection, but everyone gets really bored. You've tried total anarchy, but then it's too much. You've also sought clarity by laying down structure. And although it may appear that through this laying down of structure there is conflict, this conflict is actually a tool for you resolving the ambiguity.
Yeah, that's right. I guess I want to end by saying that I had a big success on Saturday. I held a conflict space last week, and 20 people came. It was a big conflict, and it was my conflict. And I knew that because it was my conflict, I wanted to say a lot, but also that because I was holding the space, it wouldn't work if I just lectured people. And so I just basically stayed silent for my conflict, and it worked very well.
Okay, so you have this different types of interactions, and you had a conflict space, and for your conflict, obviously where you obviously set up the conflict, you actually found that actually being silent rather than dominating the conflict space worked very well.
Yeah, that's my time. Thank you, Dean.
Thank you, James. Anne.
Dean, I'm here.
Yes, I just need to digest what's just been said by James. Right, give me a couple of seconds. I think the takeaway from that one was silence. I find silence is a very good thing to do, because silence allows consolidation of the constant turmoil that can go on in heated debates.
So I hear you definitely wanted to acknowledge that you need to digest that and have a pause. And from that, you went to say that actually your takeaway from that is silence. And it's very important and very good to have a chance to consolidate and consider.
Yeah. And my takeaway from what I got from you earlier on was quite key, was the fact that even though you can provide someone with the opportunity to have that space with you, they may not necessarily want to. That's a very hard thing to deal with when you offer something and someone says no. But then that's one of the important lessons we've got to learn, that we can't always have things on our own schedule.
So there was another takeaway from what I was saying earlier, and that was about whether the person might actually want to have you with them for this kind of special time, and to take that on board, that you might not be wanted. That might not be wanted.
Yeah. Because we live in a culture that's dominated by I. The singular, the reductionist mindset. And we're so busy breaking things down, we're breaking down the things that make us human. So like Richard's saying, he wants to do a great big book about how we can reconnect and what our emotional state should be in situations, and how we can seek clarity when we've lost the plot. And like with all of these conversations in these circles, by the time we start to get towards the end of the 2 hours, that they've become really deep and enriched. And I almost cry when the circle ends, but I know that there's been so much said in that circle, I need a day or two to actually digest what's been done.
Okay, so you've talked about that we kind of live in a culture where we're dominated by the I, the singular, and it's kind of reductionist, if that was the right word. And we're breaking down actually what it is to be human. And you kind of called on what Richard had said, and I think maybe, you know, to try to clarify that, but almost if that was an example of it kind of breaking down what it is to be human. And you went on then to reflect that at the end of just about every empathy circle you've been in, after 2 hours, there's so much, it's so kind of deepened and enriching going on that you kind of don't want it to end. However, you know that it's going to take you a couple of days to process what's been brought to it.
Yeah, because in our quest for this reductionist, reducing mindset, we've lost what it is to be human. We've lost our place. We've lost our way. This is why there seems to be so much darkness in amongst people's lives nowadays. They seem to have lost the light, and it's such a shame. I think it's really important that we help people and ourselves find our way back into the light of what it truly means to be human, and what this human condition should be, not what it is.
So you're going back to this really important idea that you believe in, that we need to find our way back into out of this darkness that humanity's got into a light, the lightness of being human, for ourselves, but also to help other people to do that too. There's so much kind of darkness around in life, and you see a need and a desire for this. I think that was that the time.
It was the time. Yeah, I'd just like to say that this is a connection that we need to seek globally, not just locally, but we need to seek it on all levels. That's the important task, I think, of our age.
Yeah,
By
so
doing
this
that.
connection is we need to do it, and it's really important to bring in that actually this is a global task and we need to do it, not just in our communities locally, but globally.
Thank you, Anne. I feel fully heard.
Thanks, Dean.
You want to take one last one, Anne?
Yeah.
Turn.
Edwin, you've hardly been. Is that?
I've done a bunch. I have to maybe Victoria or someone if you want. I've done. There's just I got to message someone who's in the waiting room. Tell them.
Sorry, I'm not sure what you wanted
Oh,
me
if
to
you
do.
want to speak to someone else besides me, that's fine.
Okay, I understand. Victoria, would you be happy to listen to me, please? Okay. Ooh. Yeah, 20, actually, you know, the idea of 24 hours, the empathy circles are cafes that I've been doing over in Europe or across the world, really. 2 hours, after 2 hours, there's so much depth and richness that I go away, and as Dean's mentioned, I need or to really take from that and really grow and learn from it. I need time. There's so much there. And I wonder too if that is partly because of the series of topics that we've had, which are taking us into quite deep connections. And I think the topics that we choose to use in an empathy circle, if we want to connect, deep connect, it's interesting to consider what those are.
Mhm. Okay. So you have been taking part of this empathy circles for a while, right? And you are reflecting about this, well, after 2 hours of a circle, there's actually so much mentioned in the circles, right? So, and after the circles, you need time, maybe like to think, to digest all what was said in this. And you wonder if this is because of the topics that have been chosen, right? That it seems that these topics are leading us to really deep connections. Is it like that?
Yeah. And there's another element which, and there've been a lot around different feelings. And it's been really valuable to explore different feelings, to talk about them, because we actually don't talk about the feeling itself. We talk about how we feel about how we're feeling, and sometimes that's when we're caught up in the feeling. But actually to have a conversation about anger or joy or grief is actually really rich. And we do all experience, this is part of our human condition, to experience in this huge range, a range of emotions and feelings. And yet we're very silent in our cultures about them. So to actually explore them together seems to bring a really deep, rich connections.
Okay. So you are saying that there are many different feelings and emotions here, and you think that it's really valuable to explore all these feelings, right? You say that we talk about the feelings, but we don't actually sometimes go to the feelings, like the really deep feelings. And as humans, we experience a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions, and it will be nice to explore them together. Is it like that?
Yeah, there's kind of two parts of it, that talking about how you feel to somebody, we might not be very good at that, or we might not be very good to listen to someone talking about how they feel. It might be hard. But to talk about a feeling, like say, okay, we're going to talk about anger today, and hear what people's thoughts are, or what they have to say about anger, or about love, or whatever, joy. Those are conversations we don't have with each other. We don't discuss, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you are mentioning like there are two different parts, right? So one is like to talk about how we feel, to say, oh, I feel this way, I feel sad, I feel happy. Well, you mentioned that it might be hard to listen to the people. But then you mentioned about the other part, there's talk about the feeling itself, right? Like today, let's talk about anger, let's talk about joy. So you think that it will be really important to do this kind of discussions? Is it like that?
Yeah. And I think that maybe this helps us understand each other and understand our experiences of those, or our thoughts about and understandings about joy or grief or sorrow, or whichever.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
And
so oh, sorry, continue.
yeah. And so I wonder whether this is something maybe to do in family groups or in our groups.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're mentioning that you think that this can really help us, right? To discuss about the feelings, and this can help us to understand each other, right? And it will be nice if we can do it in family groups. Is it like that?
Yeah, maybe. How much time have I got, James? That was it.
Oh, time.
Okay.
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you very much, Victoria.
Well, we just have 2 minutes, so we could just do a quick debrief, or just kind of end with a few sentences. I think I love this topic. I'm really excited about it, keeping it going. And I like the idea of doing an extended empathy circle. Instead of getting tired after 2 hours, it's the marathon of sticking with it instead of having to, integrate it on your own. You have to integrate it in a group. So that could make it be a kind of interesting shift. So yeah. So anyone else want to just share any final comments? Oh, yeah. Yeah, jump in.
Glad
Yeah,
I was here
Victoria?
today.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Victoria?
Oh, I just want to say that I really enjoyed this circle too. I like the other topics too, but I think that this topic is really for a specific thing. Like we can really connect with the experiences we have in our family, because just to talk, why is it important a culture of empathy? It's like, I don't know, there can be so many things, but talk specifically about family, it's nice.
Great. Anyone else?
I would just like to say that there's more than one type of family, and it's important, especially in the fluidity of things that are going on at the moment, that we don't lose contact with the different varieties, and we give each version as much credibility as what was previously the norm, because things are changing and we must change with them.
Yes, I think this thing about different sorts of families, hearing that, Dean, yeah, I think we create families all the time. seems like. And I'd like, it's sad that Heather had to leave. I was really interested in what she was going to be bringing in with kind of those Indigenous voices. And I hope she comes again. I have no way of contacting her. If anyone does, to invite her, I'd love an invitation to be passed to her to come again. Thank you.
Thanks.
I liked the broadness today. I heard practical examples, kind of touching practical examples, also more abstract thoughts and kind of patterns, and I would say call it visionary things, and kind of it was nice that all was had a broad range. That was for me nice to see the whole picture in a way, or hear the whole picture, or the whole range. I would say the whole range.
Okay, well, thanks everyone. In half an hour, we have the facilitator support group. There haven't been many people coming to it, so you're welcome to come. If not, that's fine. I get to go outside sooner. Yeah, see you next week, same topic, and we'll be doing this for a topic for a while. So with that,
And
see
Edwin,
you.
is the same
Yeah.
link in a half
Same
an hour?
link. It's always the same link. When I do it, I use the same link all the time.
Okay.
And to enter the training session that you're talking about right now in half an hour.
That's just a facilitator support group in half an hour. That is, if you're wanting to hold empathy circles, you can someplace you can
Oh.
come and you get 15 minutes of time to share your project and get heard on it. And
Oh,
any
okay.
facilitators are there to, kind of give you support in whatever way you need. Empathy, advice, co-facilitation, whatever kind of support you're asking for.
Oh, okay. I understand. Very
Okay,
good.
cool. Alrighty. Then see you later.
Hi, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Until next time, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yep. Next.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.